Kaylee, are you ready to talk about vagina dentata?
Yes.
So, teeth. You don't have vagina dentata, do you?
I don't know, do I? You would
Oh.
know.
Well, would I? 'Cause
Oh, maybe you wouldn't,
I've,
actually.
I've never tried to rape you.
I
So,
guess you wouldn't know.
no.
Hmm.
Yeah. Teeth.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. So, for those of you who have lived under a rock and have not heard of this film, this is about a girl with vagina dentata, or in layman's terms, vaginal teeth.
Yeah.
Oh boy. This is definitely a very ridiculous film, but watching this, I've seen this I think only one other time. I don't know how else you would do it other than how it's done in the film, right? I mean, I guess there are different ways, but I think the film is pretty smart in its presentation. I think because the film has such a silly premise that you can't play this 100% straight. That being said, the film definitely feels serious, but it knows what it is, and it is playful with it. It's a very dark comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a lot of, dark comedy is the best description for it, because it has a lot of moments that are, intentionally funny, but then it also has a lot of stuff that's, pretty heavy in it, too.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. So, yeah, it definitely has a mix of those two things.
Well, here's the thing that I've always said with this movie that I find kind of funny. Now, there is a counterpoint to it that I'll bring up here in a minute, but I do find it kind of funny that when this movie's brought up, and it's supposed to be this cautionary tale for men. In fact, even the poster or the cover art here says that it's the most alarming cautionary tale for men since Fatal Attraction.
That's funny.
The whole concept here is that guys should be afraid because if they were to stick their dick in a vagina, that vagina could have teeth, right? So treat the girl well, otherwise your days are numbered potentially. But guys stick their dicks in things with teeth all the time. Mouths.
Yeah.
This is what's funny about this to me is I've heard guys talk about this movie and they're like, "Oh my god, would you do that? Would you stick your dick in a girl with teeth in her vagina?" I'm like, I stick my dick in a girl's mouth. And if she was mad at me, or if I was trying to assault her, but the message of the film is not to fear vaginas. The message of the film is to not rape women.
Yeah.
So throughout this movie, and it is proved in here that when she is enjoying the sex, which she does one time with this guy,
but
she doesn't bite him.
Yeah, but that's, obviously that scene, she's still being raped in that scene because she was drugged before. Just because she's enjoying it, just because her body is reacting, she did not actually consent to have sex because she's being date raped essentially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yes, you're right. Technically, if she is enjoying it, then she's not her body won't fight back and attack you.
But the second time she has sex with him, that's the next day.
Yeah.
She's no longer on drugs.
Yeah.
She's still fully into it.
Yeah.
Comes in, has sex with him. So while what he does is wrong in drugging her, she is into it later, which does not excuse what he's doing. Of course, obviously. But the point still stands. The second time, up until she finds out what he's saying in the bet that he makes on the phone, she's not biting him. Right? And with the gynecologist, with the guy in the cave that rapes her with eventually her brother. These are all people who are assaulting her.
Yeah.
Right? And it's in its assault that it happens.
Yeah.
But when she is enjoying it, she doesn't bite, right? Just like a girl wouldn't bite you if you're not forcibly shoving your dick in her mouth.
Yeah, I think that probably happens a little less often than any other kind of rape because of the fact that there are teeth in
Sure,
there.
and that's the fear, right? You're
yeah.
not going to mouth rape somebody,
right?
Because of that very reason.
Yeah, I think
all,
all women should have adaptations to their vaginas so that they could have teeth.
We're getting demonetized on this one for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about this movie without like talking about it.
It's adult subjects.
It's just but
I talk about it.
It always like I think this is a very it's a weird movie because on one hand it's like I guess I just feel so sad that like even that like tagline being like a cautionary tale, it just sucks that there has to be cautionary tales like a girl's vagina could have teeth and could bite your penis off, like therefore don't rape people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that makes me sad, like the fact that it's just not like very simple and basic and like just hey, maybe don't do this thing.
But at the same time,
but there's cautionary tales for so many things, so it's like this isn't the only instance where that's the case, right? Like obviously there's tons of tons of like folk tales and stuff that are cautionary tales for whatever.
But look at the history of horror. I mean, we always talk about when it comes to slasher movies or horror in general that the promiscuous kids are the ones who get the axe and the virgin isn't. So the cautionary tale there is don't have sex or don't have premarital sex or don't have sex as like teenagers or whatever you want to attribute their deaths to. So I think that a guy would watch this and just be afraid to have sex in general. I mean, if a girl could do that, but then again, that's why I say it's a funny kind of thing, because to me it's like, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with a blowjob, right? If you're afraid of someone biting your dick off,
right? But the idea is that like
you should feel the same about a mouth.
The vaginas like don't fight back. Technically, like they can't bite you back, but they can in this world.
Yes,
and
in this one girl.
Ultimately, I do like that. Like her story, like it is about empowerment for her, like in discovering, even though it's through trauma and rape in a way, but like discovering her sexuality and like her power and everything. Like, because by the end of it, she's like, she's thrown away her ring, her like little purity ring and everything, and she has experienced what sex feels like she has had an orgasm and everything, and like, but she's going into this, well, I don't know, I know I'm like literally jumping to the end, but like, I think ultimately she does get to this place of like, oh, okay, like, well, I guess I can just like bite back when people are gonna like try and force me to do things I don't want to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the film is silly, right? It is in its presentation of men. In this world, all men are trash rapists.
This would be the kind of movie, like we talked about, like the Black Christmas remake, where, like, but this movie actually is like, aside from her father, unless there was a scene, I don't know, I thought one scene was him being weird with her stepdad, but I don't think so. I think her stepdad is, like, the only good guy in this movie that we see. Yeah. Unless there's, like, because there's a scene when they're at the hospital and there's like a really weird sound and she's like sleeping on his lap, and I was like, I don't know what's happening.
I almost think like she's grinding her teeth.
That would be okay. That would make sense, because it's like this weird rustling, and I was like, is he like grinding like his lap? But he doesn't act like that, and there's no other like indicator that he's like into her or anything, so I don't think that's the case, but I don't think so. He's like the only good dude, and all the rest of them are all like assholes, which is like very funny. I mean, hey, but that's the story that's being told, is like, these types of guys exist, and
they do, all in this town, and they all meet this girl in a 2 or 3 day period.
They all deserve what they get, essentially.
Sure. So, okay, if we get into the opening of this movie, we show that she lives right next to a nuclear plant. Nuclear?
Oh yeah, nuclear.
I get such shit for the way I pronounce nuclear.
Nuclear.
I don't
remember. I feel like we said it right one time, but yeah, there's it's like
big
right behind their house. Excuse me. Yeah.
Like right behind their house.
Like it's in their backyard.
And Homer Simpson seems to be at the controls in this place. I could
never live. And I'm sure, well, I don't know. No, I was going to say, I'm sure some people live that close. I'm like, no, never mind. There has to be some kind of, like, area where you're like, nope, you can't live this close because if there's, like, something happens.
Well, look at Pripyat.
But I don't know.
I don't know how close they were, but
they're
like, pretty damn close.
I mean, like, nowadays. Like, now there has to be. I mean, this is, like, 2007, so I don't know. Don't live that close to nuclear power plants.
You don't think this is a real town with nuclear plants close to it, do you? You're like, this is 2007, and this is clearly a real town.
No, it's not a real town. Fake. I know they're fake. Anyway, I'm just saying, if that was to be real.
So in the opening here, we get this kind of, when I show you mine, you show me yours gone wrong kind of thing. So they're playing in the pool, little brother and sisters to be. And the parents are in the background. They have just started dating, and the dad really wants to be with the mom. The brother shows the little girl his dick, and then he's like, let me see yours, which, of course, implies that he tried to finger her.
Yeah.
And she's like 2?
Yeah.
3? She's so
young. It's so gross. And he's like 7, 5, 6?
I don't know how old he is.
I don't know.
But this sets into motion kind of like all of what becomes their future.
Yeah.
Because this is where the film is smart in a lot of its decisions, and the satire and all of that is pretty funny and on display here. So like, I don't, and you would ask this, and I think this is a good question this is exactly what I was thinking about with him. So he seemingly only does anal with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's like, I have a perfectly good pussy, and he's like, yeah, I bet, whatever. And he even tries, once he's with his sister, who he's in love with and obsessed with, he still tries to put it in her ass.
Yeah.
We are being very graphic in this one. I don't care. There's no way to talk about this film. I'm not a sugarcoating kind of guy anyway. And with this movie, if you're offended by stuff, I'm sorry. Then this is not the discussion for you.
No.
Moving on.
Yeah, probably warning.
No warning.
Graphic content.
There you go.
This is too far in.
No, I'll put it on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Anyway, or maybe I won't.
I don't know. You two might hate it.
So
just stuck.
Yeah, he even tries to put it in her, and he's like avoiding the vagina. He doesn't. I don't know if he has a memory of it, if it's subconscious, whatever. But he has like a fear of vaginas. She also has a fear of her own vagina.
Yes.
Right. This whole purity thing, which we're going to get into plenty of discussion about that.
Oh man.
But she's also like, she sees this monster movie on the TV. And it's this like creature with like fangs, very much like her serrated teeth in her vagina. Unfortunately, we never get to see her vagina. Now, it is an internal mechanism.
I don't think you would really be able to see it, because it's not so. If it was like her outer lips or something, then like of course she would know.
Yeah,
it's internal, so there's not really a way to see it. Like, I mean, I guess there is a way to see it, but it's just.
This is a smart decision because it eliminates a couple questions, and it poses a pretty good like backstory for her, as far as like she has this experience when she's a kid. This of course is a sexual assault towards her as a child, which then makes her have like an aversion to men in general, and but of course she's a teenage girl, has hormones, she wants to have sex, so she like commits herself to this purity thing, which never fucking works. And she is trying her best to avoid it, so she doesn't touch herself. She's never with a guy. She never has any interaction with her vagina in any way, shape, or form. So she doesn't even know what it looks like. She's very much like distance herself from it. She has to look at a textbook to try to even see how the mechanics of a vagina is work. She's so sheltered in her education towards human reproductive organs, that there is an explanation of how she's gotten to this age, and she has no idea of that, her function.
Yeah, I think that neither of them really remember. I think that because he even talks to his girlfriend about, like, this scar on his finger, and is like, I think she bit me or whatever. So neither of them have a memory. He definitely has, like, a fear, though, because that's entirely why he doesn't have, like, vaginal sex. And also maybe because he's, like, waiting for her in some weird way. But I think that, like, her turning towards, like, abstinence, I don't know that she's afraid of men necessarily, but I think she's afraid of herself, because I think that she, like, realizes deep
instinctually
down,
knows.
Yeah, like, something is different about her when it comes to that. I mean, maybe there is some fear of men, but, like, she's fine with her dad. And she's ultimately fine with, like, the first guy before he, tries to rape her.
Oh yeah, she's all
like,
about
she's
him.
super into him and everything, but there is, like, a fear of sex in general.
Yes.
Not necessarily men. I think it's more like the movie is more focused on, like, the repression of female sexuality at the expense of, like, men getting what they want, instead.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, her obsession with purity and abstinence, I agree. I think that is stemming from some internal kind of barometer where she, like, understands.
Yeah.
There's, even though she doesn't have proof, even though she's not even really thinking about it, it's a subconscious, deep rooted thing in her that she knows is like, what's going on with me. And as I said, that monster on the TV kind of invokes in her some kind of response where she knows that has some kind of deeper meaning to who she is. And yeah, I mean, she ends up becoming a monster in the end, for sure. Like, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, I'm not saying it's a... Yes. She's
it's like the monstrous feminine, right? Like, that's what I mean. Like, she's reclaiming her power and everything, but it's like she has this ability and this part of her that she has repressed and ignored and, tried to deny and all this stuff. And then by the end of the movie, she's like, embraced it, where it's like, she's not going to kill the old guy at the end initially. Like, she gets a ride because she just is, like, hitching a ride.
Right.
And then he's the one that's,
like
doing all those gross things, sticking his tongue out at her, and she keeps trying to leave. She's like, just let me get out of the fucking car. And then he just doesn't. So it's like, okay, fine, I'll give you what you want. And, like,
he's not even gonna be able to get it up.
No. But, like, so she's not, she doesn't set out on, like, a quest to be like, now I'm gonna kill all men, like, every man that has sex with me. But it is just, like, she's just embraced it. She's like, okay, fine, like, if you're gonna fuck with me, then, like, you're gonna get your dick bit off, okay? Like... Sure.
And, yeah, I mean...
So I don't think she's a monster.
There's this, like... The cautionary tale comes from the idea of that, she's the first. This is an adaptation and kind of a stage in evolution, right? So there's a scene where they're in class and they're talking about rattlesnakes, and they're talking about how inevitably, like, and eventually, there was this mutation, this next adaptation in the stage of evolution where, we were at this stage, and then it develops this thing for protection. And unfortunately, women have been raped since the dawn of man,
God,
right? And
you would think that at some point we would develop something, but like, the teacher quite literally says to her, like, this is about you. And I like that scene too, because that's also something I've always, like, I always think about when I learn about, like, some animal, and then, like, all of a sudden now it does this thing, and I'm like, how does that just happen? But it is just, like, all of a sudden, like, a mutation appears, because it's so weird to think of, like, animals that have, like, that, like, were, for example, like, whales that were, like, on land, and then all of a sudden, like, now they're going into the water and stuff, and like, their nostrils are on the top of their head instead of the front of their face, and like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? Like,
Right.
it's so bizarre to think, but yeah, like the mutation and adaptations that happen to animals and just creatures over, you know, when there's a certain environmental like stressor that is necessary for them to have that.
Yeah.
Women should have teeth down there.
Yeah, but your guys' vaginas have been betraying you forever.
Or
like, you guys should have a much wider, like, birth canal. The
That's
fact that
crazy.
it shouldn't be as painful as it is.
No,
like,
most other your
vaginas are way too small.
But evolution is like, it's more important for us to have big brains.
Yeah.
Because it's more important. Like, it's just more important. But you're like, yeah, like, why? But some women have those, like, quote-unquote childbearing hips or whatever, but it still is, like...
It's too small.
It's kind of crazy
for how big a baby is.
Yeah.
The baby should come out much smaller, or the vagina should be much bigger. I don't know which one.
I don't know, dude.
But, I mean, with our penis sizes, though, it would have to be the babies. Otherwise, we wouldn't match up. It'd be the round peg and the
I don't
square
know.
hole thing.
Yeah, that's always... Yeah, that's crazy to think. It's very, very crazy.
All right, back to it. So teaching kids abstinence, this is just absurd to me. Like, this is kind of like the DARE program of my generation and how big of a failure that was. You know, just telling kids no, not really like just trying to fear and guilt them into things. Oh yeah,
and this is all entirely like religious.
Yes,
though.
Of course.
It never works.
Has anyone ever? I don't think it'll work anyway, because it shouldn't, and it's not going to, because you can't repress human sexuality. Look at the Catholic priests. You know, if you try to tell them not to fuck, they just start fucking the kids. But like, has no one ever tried this without religion? Because this is like a religious thing. I don't know why you would
try it without religion.
No, I know.
The only argument that is made about like abstinence that, like, to me makes any amount of sense is just the fact that that's like the surefire way to avoid STDs.
Sure.
Well, so yeah, that's like, of course. But instead of telling people just don't have sex, well, yeah, you won't get pregnant, you won't get STDs if you don't have sex, of course.
STIs now.
Sorry, STIs. But the problem is that you still have to teach people about those things. Like, they still need to know. Like, it's human right to know about reproductive health and just all the things that entails. Like, the fact that people are, like, because, yeah, when we move on, like, so she has that whole scene where she's telling all these kids in, like, a very religious context. It's all Christian. It's all blah, blah, blah. Like, save yourself. And, like, don't get me wrong. If somebody, like, we were talking about this during the movie. If you're the kind of person who's like, I only want to have sex with, like, my future spouse or whatever.
Fine.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to have sex.
Nope.
Even if you're like, I never want to have sex. Like, I don't care. Like, that is totally fine and that's your choice. But it is the fact that it's done in a very, like, fear-mongering kind of way where then, like, the boy that's into her, like, he had sex a year ago and he's like, I'm still dealing with the guilt. And that's wrong. Like, that's fucking messed up.
He's like a born-again virgin?
Yeah.
Is what I took from
but,
that.
Like, people shouldn't feel guilty about their totally normal and natural sexual feelings that they have. Especially when you're a teenager. Like, that is the time, like, if you feel guilty, if you're made to feel guilty, like, I really do think that can, like, fuck you up later on.
Oh, 100%.
In life. Because that's, like, when you're learning about, like... It's, like, literally how your brain is starting to crystallize, like, your sexuality and everything. So it's, like, if something, like, messed up happens to you then, like, that's when you get those, like, crazy kinks or, like, you get, like, trauma or whatever.
Yeah.
And, anyway, but, like, so, like, from that scene to then the classroom scene where they are having sex ed.
Yeah.
But
I don't understand why they're having sex ed so late in this school. I think this is just for plot convenience because you have sex education in the 7th grade. I very vividly remember being in 7th grade. And they're in, like, sophomore, junior year. There's no fucking way.
It's hard enough to do sex ed in middle school, but, like, imagine doing sex ed with a group of, like, high schoolers.
That
would be, like, so insane to do. Yeah, like, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. 8th grade's a little bit too late, but, like, 6th or 7th grade, that's crazy. But, like, the fact that the guy, like, the teacher is like, here's, like, the penis, and, like, there's this whole diagram of the penis, and then on all the textbooks, there's a giant sticker covering the vagina, and he can't even say the word vagina.
That's crazy.
He's like, the female reproductive, blah, 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 and then he's like, well, like, he said something, too, where he's like, it's not right to see it or something.
Yeah, he's like, that's different.
It's different to see that, like, a penis, but not a vagina, because that is a feeling that a lot of people, like, people think that vaginas are more graphic than penises.
Well, sure. I mean, we see this in film, right?
Yes.
You mean, so...
But
like,
it's fine to see boobs in film all the time.
Sure. So, obviously, like, the least risque thing you can possibly see is the male chest.
Yeah.
Then followed by probably, like, the female butt, and then the male butt, and then the boobs of a woman, and then the dick, and then the lower or the highest rung, however you want to see that, is the vagina.
Because then if you do that, it's like, oh, it's pornographic.
And the funny thing is that typically when we see a vagina in a film, it's the pubic hair on top of the vagina.
Like...
The actual literal, like, labia and all that. Oh my God. The amount of times I've seen that in a film that is not porno, is not a pornographic film, I could probably count on one hand.
Yeah.
It is so insanely rare. Basic Instinct is one that comes to mind. It is an insanely rare. The Ugly Stepsister recently.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, but it's so, like, angering that it's like the female body is just made to be, like, hypersexualized.
Yeah.
And, like, from, like, you know, I know this is a movie, but it's like there are 1,000% classes and, like, experiences that people have had that are similar to this, where it's like they're being taught, like, you know, how much that happens today, I don't know. I would like to think it's more progressive today, but definitely, like, in this time, like in the early 2000s and, like, before, 100% there were people that were like, no, we don't want to talk about, like, female stuff.
Oh, of course.
Like, I don't want to say period. I don't want to say menstruation and, like, talk about, like, the fact that you bleed every month, like, and it's, you know, almost always guys. But then there's also
so weird about that.
There's also, like, very, very conservative women who also do that kind of thing where they're like, no, like, it's improper to talk about it. Like, you shouldn't talk about it.
You shouldn't talk about the natural
the thing your body just does
of your actual
that
body.
You can't control.
It's because we as a country, we as a people are sexually repressed, and we, unfortunately, because of our practices, we have sexualized the human body in its natural form. A pair of breasts on their own, a vagina on its own, isn't sexual. It can be used for sexuality, of course. I mean, obviously, that's a sexual organ. But the fact that we just seeing it shows how sexually repressed we are.
Because you're like, all of a sudden,
because you're just
freaking out.
Because they're like, oh my God, boobs, oh my God. You can't handle yourself, right? But if you were to be raised in a culture, I'm sure if you went to, like, Aboriginal tribes where women have their breasts exposed at all times, the boys there are not going to be, like, goo-goo gaga over the girls' tits like we are. I'm not saying they won't be at all. Of course, there's sexuality in us. We are attracted to what we're attracted to, and there's some deep thing within us as boys because of the mother's milk and the nurturing of the breast and all that bullshit. But it's just because of, like... And America is probably one of the worst at it, because we love to sell sex in everything that we do. All our advertisements, the movies, everything is sexualized. But music. We're also, like, very repressed.
It's because of our Puritan, like, past. We still have, like, built into so many things this, like, idea. It is entirely that, where it's like, like, we shouldn't be doing this or whatever.
Well, we also have conservatives that are trying to shut down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like this, like, Christian, like,
I know,
undertone.
But that's this, like, the more modern take on it, though.
And not all Christians, obviously. I'm sure that there are Christians out there that are like, yes, sex ed is good and positive and, you know, all this stuff, but the majority, in, like, the way that it tends to go, at least, is definitely that they would be the ones being like, no, it's we talk about abstinence, like, we just tell you not to do it, which is just so crazy. But, like, yeah, this scene was probably one of the more angering ones. Like, there's so many angering scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
But this one was just, like, so, like, what are you talking about?
The cult chanting from the kids every time she's trying to, like, talk about something, and they're, like, encouraging her.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
kind of, you know, all in unison, like,
Yeah.
doing these, like, Bible verses with her. The craziest thing about the abstinence thing in this movie, for sure, and is true in real life, too, with these purity freaks, is that it also is taught to them to not masturbate as well.
Oh, I know.
Which is like,
that's
was some
crazy.
Nonsense. Like, what? What the fuck are you even... I know, like, this is why, of course, once again, it has to do with religion. Trying to take horny boys and girls and tell them to just not bother. Like, they're not going to teach you anything. They're just going to put a ring on your finger. And it's like, you're going to only wait, and you're going to replace it with your wedding ring, and that's just going to stamp out all of your desire.
And then that's why they all are like, let's get married when we're 18, because they're like,
sure,
we need to do it now.
Of course. So just the fact that they're trying to repress their sexuality to that level, where they're like, don't touch yourself, don't like, even think about it. Like, impure thoughts is bad.
I know,
and
that's
it's like,
so crazy.
You literally can't stop that. Your brain thinks of what it thinks of. Intrusive thoughts are part of your brain. As somebody who suffers from severe freaking, you know, health anxiety and OCD, let me tell you, the more I try to not think about something, the more I think about that thing. And when they're taught to feel shame for thinking about the thing that they're inevitably going to think about, and they keep telling you, don't think about this thing. It's that scene in Inception where he's like, I tell you not to think about a pink elephant. What are you thinking about? A pink elephant, of course. If they're like sitting there and they're hammering you over the head right and left, don't think about sex, don't think about sex. You're already a horny teenager. And then you're just like, don't think about sex, don't think about sex. And then you think about sex for half a second because you see some girl walk by with her tits hanging out. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to go to hell. I'm the worst person that's ever existed. What do you think that does to a kid? It fucks them up beyond belief.
Yeah, the shame and stuff. And she's like, I don't know. I feel like she doesn't really try to shame people, like, with what she does. Like, when she talks to this guy, like, when he tells her, like, oh, like, I had sex a year ago or whatever, she's like, oh, well, it's okay, like, it probably just means, like, you're more resolved now. And I'm like, bro, no, that's, like, the opposite, probably, which does end up being the case, obviously, too. But, yeah, like, the way everyone treats her, too, in school, like, when she's walking up and they're just, like,
well, because she tries to push her shit on everybody.
Yeah,
That's
it makes sense.
Right? If she just kept it to herself, no one would care, no one would even pay attention to her. But it's because she has to constantly go around and interject and push herself in like she does in class.
In the class, she's like, well, that's because women are more modest and like, blah. It's like,
but you can tell from the way it is, because you have people like reciting lines of hers from her purity classes that are not part of those things. So you can tell she goes around the school and tries to get into people's business and be like, you guys should be waiting. She's those people who stand outside like an abortion clinic with signs or whatever. Like, she's that kind of person.
She's like,
and you're just like, you want to punch her in the fucking face.
She's fully bought into this, which sucks. It does suck, because I think, like,
where does this come from?
Like, her heart's in the right spot.
Because her family's not that way.
No. Even her parents were like, they've got, what did they say? They were like, it was different when we were kids.
Yeah, they're not that way at all.
Too. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me when, like, these parents, like, or, like, adults that are, like, pro-abstinence and stuff. It's like, bro, were you ever a freaking teenager? Like, were you ever, unless you are somebody
hypocrites
who is, like, asexual, who just, like, does not have sexual feelings like that.
Yeah.
Those are the only, like, and even those people are not, like, don't have sex. Those people are, like, do whatever you want most of the time. Because, like, they literally don't care. But, yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Back to the movie. I mean, this is part of the movie discussion. Because these kinds of people elicit a very, like, deep anger in me. Because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Deluding yourself into believing that you're ever going to be able to squash human desire is so stupid. It angers me. Yeah. Especially teenagers.
They gotta be educated.
That is the best way.
And you gotta give them freaking contraceptives so that they don't get pregnant because they will have sex.
You need to teach them self-respect.
But
that's what you need to. You need to give them love and self-respect so that they make good choices.
Yeah.
You gotta allow your kids to make choices.
Yeah.
If you try to make their choices for them, they'll resent you and they'll do it to spite you.
Oh, yeah.
So this whole notion of control, it just doesn't work. Anyway,
back to the movie. So yeah, like they clearly have like, you know, their little flirtation. Mm-hmm. They're into each other so obviously, and they go on this like kind of like a double date to like the movies. And there's like an R-rated movie and a PG-13, and they're like, well, there's going to be heavy making out in those movies, so they go.
They're all fine with the PG-13. Actually, the two friends that are there with them are fine with the R-rated.
Yes.
He's okay with the PG-13 because he's there to compromise. So his backstory, from what I can tell, is he's really into her.
Yes.
And because of that, he becomes this way to try to attract her.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't really have any actual interest in this. He buys into this stuff. This reminds me of the character in Shining Vale that we watched, who I love the daughter in that.
The daughter who's like, I'm going to become a Christian.
This is a pretty common joke in movies and shows.
Very funny.
Just like that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode when he like starts screwing the girls on the other side of the picket fence of abortions, and he gets her pregnant, and then he's like, I need you to have an abortion.
Oh, I haven't seen that episode.
It's
That's really funny.
Episode.
Yeah, it's a common like trope. But yeah, he absolutely like. So many guys at this school are like really into her because it is that like,
oh sure,
she's a virgin and she's like so against it, so it's like, ooh, who can make her like have sex, which is also, it's just like, oh, she's a person. Sure. She's not something to be conquered. But he at least like, he starts off seemingly okay and trying to like, you know, whatever. But yeah, they're all fine with these other movies, and then she's like, and so they go see like the G-rated one,
some cartoon or something.
Yeah,
we can hear the noises, and we're like, oh my god.
And then they go off to like the lake, and they're like hanging out again, like as like the four of them and everything, and everything's fine. And then like that night is when she starts to like. She, like, almost masturbates. She, like, gets really close because she's, like, thinking about them on their, like, wedding day. Yeah. And she's, like, just fantasizing, and then she's
wearing a wedding dress.
She's wearing a wedding dress.
Yeah, in her bed.
Yeah. But then she gets that flash of the monster, and so she, like, gets shocked out of it and is like, what's wrong with me? Like...
Well, I think that's her vagina activating, right? It's like...
I don't understand, though, because she's like, that's, like, a totally, like...
It's a pleasant thing, so she shouldn't feel that way. I agree. I think that's why my argument is that she inherently knows that there's something down in there that she's afraid of. And I think she remembers it from when she's a kid biting that guy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
There's actually some cool imagery here. We looked this up once upon a time, but I forgot it now. The feminine version, the vagina version of phallic. Do you remember what that was? Phallic imagery versus whatever. So there's vaginal imagery in here.
What that is.
There's another word for it, but
it's not sapphic, because that's like...
Well, anyway,
I don't think that's it.
When they're walking to the water, and everything's idealistic, and the way that she has always dreamed it to be, and she's like on a date with her guy, and everything's great. They walk by this tree, and it's this very like pleasant, smooth, open, vaginal style, like, you know, hole in this tree, like a normal vagina. And then when she gets raped in the cave, then when it peers out and gives us a broader look at the cave that they're in from the outside, it's clearly like vaginal shape with like teeth at the top.
Oh yeah, really cool. Like that a lot.
Very cool.
Like that a lot.
So it's like, and it's in the same area.
Yes.
So it's like when she's walking down there, it's like her vagina is open and you know, normal, and like you can enter without worries. And then the cave is like, you know, you fucked up, and now the teeth have come out. So like, you know, when they enter the area where things get bad, the landscape changes around them and mirrors her internal struggle.
Yeah.
Or his internal struggle. It's because he's trying to struggle to get out of her internally. Yeah. We do get some good graphic penal gore.
Yeah, love that.
They didn't make...
like,
well, real quick. One thing I'll give the movie credit for is that they don't make the severed penises exaggeratedly huge. I've always talked about in other films that we've watched when guys get their dicks cut off and they fall on the ground, they're like this big, soft, and without blood in them. They're absurd. And I'm like, what would that thing look like hard and attached to the body? This? Like, what are we even talking about? But these are like more like this when they're severed, which that's more realistic.
They look pretty normal to me, at least. But yeah, I don't like. It sucks because like she like tells him after this, you know, after that night, she's like, I don't think we should see each other or anything.
Yeah. He's like, I agree.
And then I think what happens is that she goes home and like she goes to try and talk to her brother. I don't know if she tries to talk to him, like if she tries to have a serious conversation with him, but
she
it's
does.
when right, where he's like,
she's like, I wanna change our relationship,
and he's like, just put your sweet ass down here, right? Like he like comes on to her, and she's just like so grossed out and weirded out. But then I think that's after that is when she calls this other dude back and is like calls him to meet her like by themselves, and she brings her swimsuit. Which I'm like, that's so crazy. Like, I don't know what that is. If she's like, I just need a palate cleanser because, like, my stepbrother just came on to me. Or what. But, like, she goes from being like, we can't see each other, even in large groups, to, like, now, like, let's go be alone. And also go swimming together.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be very, very careful. This isn't a, like, you're asking for it kind of thing, of course, because no girl's ever asking for it in that way.
No.
But you definitely, you don't ever want to just rev a guy up endlessly. When it's very clear what your desires are, it's very clear where you both want this to go. But for her... to continue to like, let's not be around each other. I know she's tempted as well, and that's fine.
I think the big thing with her is she's confused and she doesn't really know truly what she wants. So like when she calls him and they're hanging out and they start kissing and stuff, like, you know, she's very like coy and she's like, purity, like remember, like it's pretty obvious she doesn't want it to go any farther than that. She's just wanting to kiss, and that's like her like compromise with him, right? And I think if he was actually like into the purity thing and into like respecting that, he probably would just do it too. But then when they get into the cave, which I feel like, I don't know, the cave is crazy because like her friend literally is like, people go there to have sex,
but she's not into the purity thing like she says she is, right? She's trying to masturbate and has to like stop herself from doing it because she's like, what am I doing? And she's shaming herself.
She's just having the feelings. Like I don't mean like she's trying to remind both of them like, we should do this. We should be like, because we're dedicated to the purity. But you're right. Like I do think that she like is interested, and like they start kissing in the cave and everything, but then she's like, no, stop, because he's just like starting to feel her up and everything, and she's like, she does tell him stop, like no, and he doesn't 100% stop. So it's like, there's no question at that point, I don't feel like she's leading him on or like tricking him up until there.
No,
I don't think so.
I'm just saying that I guess in general you got to make sure, because you don't want things to get out of hand, and you know, people get overly excited, and they're like, if you continue to keep doing it, what he's doing in the cave is without question rape. There's not even an argument to be made to the contrary, in my opinion. Of course. I'm just saying you got to be careful with that kind of stuff, especially with this whole nonsense idea of like, oh, we're just going to be pure and this and that. And you're like sitting at home and you're trying to like masturbate with them.
Oh yeah,
like,
she's playing. It's like
they're both
playing with fire,
deluding
so
themselves.
to speak. Yeah, and they're both dumb kids. So it's like, yeah, of course there's gonna be, but like he takes it way too far, and it's really gross because like up until that point he's like a pretty charming, like cute kid, and then like from there you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you're glad he's dead when he's dead.
And yeah, him, like, just all of that, and her, like, because he, like, hits her head and everything, so she's like,
oh my god.
And then it's just like, you don't have to do anything, like, you're still pure in God's eyes, and like, it's so fucked up and so awful. And then, yes, getting the gore, getting the, like, him just sitting there screaming while he's, like, bleeding, and, like, they both, like, see his penis, and it's, like, so funny and so good. It's sad, though, because she's, like, freaking out. Like, if that actually had happened to somebody, it would be, like, just so, like, that's your first time with sex.
Oh my
is
God,
that you, like, your vagina bit this guy's penis off. Yeah. It would be so crazy. But he also raped you. So it's like, there's so many horrible things happening there.
I think every girl would like to have this ability.
Yes.
If they were being raped.
I mean, no, every girl wants there to not be rape. I think that's probably like, the first thing. Like, there should just be no rape.
If we're going to wish for things.
But then if you're going to have it, then yeah, I want the mutation.
Yeah.
But
I mean, of course, realistically, a guy would probably beat you to death. And that's one area that this film does not even touch upon, is that no one tries to physically harm her after their dick is being bitten off.
Well, because they're all, like, completely shocked and, like, instantly in shock. Like, I feel like they can't even... Like, I don't know, how would you feel? Like, if you, like, had your penis, like, just cut off.
Well, I wouldn't be raping them.
No, I know. But, like,
so
I'm just saying, like, let's just say it
bit.
happened, though. But, like, you wouldn't, like, would you think you would be in the, like, mind frame to, like, then start, like, punching or, like, attacking?
The kind of guy that would rape a girl would very quickly go to physically assaulting her if anything was going on. All these
guys in this movie are all kind of, like...
Not her brother.
Yeah, not her brother, but he's like messed up already, too, from like...
He very much comes off like the guy that as soon as the pain came in, he would start hitting her.
Yeah. But this guy, like, he just screams and screams, and then he, like, you know, falls into the water.
Yeah.
And, you know, she eventually goes home and is, like, freaking out about everything still. And, I mean, yeah, of course this guy dies out there because it's cold and he bleeds out. And,
well, he probably passes out and drowns, realistically.
Yeah. And they end up finding his body later, and, I like that the police officer, or, like, what is it? Not the mortician, the...
medical
examiner? Yeah, is like, it's a weird, like, this tooth is like...
Oh, it's serrated.
Like, serrated, like, he said, was it not like shark's teeth?
Eel.
But like eel. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, anyway, I thought that was really interesting, but it's like, but it's human.
Right. Yeah, serrated so that it's really used for cutting something off. Because obviously our teeth are a little more flat.
Yeah. And
these are more like shark teeth. These are made for chomping. These teeth were made for chomping. But I kind of find it funny. I just thought about this right now, that when they see his dick, because, you know, obviously one of the reasons to not have sex is what we talked about earlier with pregnancy and STDs. Mm-hmm. But when she finds his dick after the first time they have sex, it has crabs on it.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. So that's a good... That's
kind of a little STD there for you.
I didn't even think of it like that.
I didn't think of it either until I thought of it being a crab, and then I'm like, you got crabs.
Yeah, she swims out and sees it and screams, because I think she's, like, thinking to herself, like, that can't have really happened. Like, that must have been a delusion or like a nightmare.
Sure, I mean, why wouldn't she think that?
And then she sees it, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then she goes to the Mr. Mott, the fucking...
The gynecologist?
The gynecologist
from
God. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Dude.
This is literally the exact same thing that happens in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
So
he takes his glove, like he goes to put his glove on, and then he like doesn't really put it on and puts it up her.
Ew.
That's literally exactly what happens in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. We'll cover that on the channel at some point.
I feel like you would be able to tell. Like you'd be like, "There's no latex on this."
Oh, 100%. But I think so. She's very naive.
Very
She's
naive.
very like
she
sheltered.
Doesn't know what's happening.
She's going there on her own.
Yes.
She's someone who had to like. She's seeing a vagina for the first time, so she doesn't know. Like, I don't think she's aware in the moment that she's supposed to be feeling. But I think it obviously becomes very
he's like,
clear to her.
Oh my god, he's
that
like
she's
putting
assaulting.
his whole hand up there.
He's like, let's test
let's see
your
how like stretchy you are,
dexterity or
elasticity or
yeah,
something.
let's say that's fucking.
What
insane.
the hell? Oh my god. Dude, and this is great because then she like chomps down on him and like he can't pull his hand out, so he's like, and she's just, they're both like screaming at each other, so funny. And then when she stands up and looks down and his like 4 fingers are there.
I like that there's a bit of a there's more of a fight with this because there's bones in your finger. Right. As opposed to your dick, there's just meat. Yeah. So it'd be much easier to bite through.
It would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although supposedly fingers are not that hard to bite through.
They're
Everyone always
like
says
a carrot.
Yeah. Which is really weird. I don't know.
I've bit my freaking finger pretty hard before, and I feel like a carrot breaks much easier.
No, I feel like your brain literally stops you from putting like the right amount of pressure. Because when you bite into like a carrot,
let's find out.
You really do like bite down on it. Yeah. But like even when you're like biting on your finger, it probably feels like more than what it is, to be honest. Because your brain is like, stop it, stop it, stop it,
stop it. Stop it!
So it probably isn't that hard to bite off fingers. But yeah, this is a really great scene. I'm glad that happens. He should have died, though. Like, that's my only complaint, is that I feel like this guy needs to die. Because he's even like, vagina dentata. Yeah. They're real. It's like, real. He knows that.
Which like, it is technically, like, folklore real. I didn't know if this was an actual thing, so I Googled it, and yeah, there it is. It is, like, folklore. And I'm assuming that this was probably a story passed on by women to try to scare men out of raping them.
All women have,
or just having sex with them in general.
But
most women are like weren't getting. Most women throughout history weren't having sex for pleasure.
Most women were being raped.
Yeah, most women were either just being sold off to their husbands.
They were being raped by their husbands. They were being raped by like, you know, pillagers or whatever, like when there was wars and shit happening. Houses. Oh my god. It's awful. It's
arranged
horrible,
marriages.
Honestly. Like
35-year-old men with 12-year-old girls. Yeah.
And it still happens today.
Of course.
Those things can still happen today. In, you know, certain parts of the world, but then also even in like progressive like Western countries or whatever, not even Western, but like, you know, even in the East, like in progressive countries, I should say, modernized places, there's still rape that happens all the time.
You think? Yeah. I find so. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but did this guy not give the girl his business card to ask her out?
He gives her like a business card that has like a phone number on it.
Why does this kid have a business card?
I don't know. It's funny because it's like same thing with him, right? I was like, oh, okay, he's sweet, he's trying.
He also lives in the garage.
But yeah, but then he date rapes her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell he gives her, but he also gives her booze with it.
He gives her something that his mom takes. He's like, my mom takes these to like...
Probably Valium.
Yeah. It's some kind of thing.
But yeah, I mean, I do find it kind of odd, the kind of like transformation she makes in this from like, I'm a goody two-shoe, I don't have sex with anybody, and she won't have sex with a guy she's really into. But then she comes over to this guy's house, all upset about her mother's death.
Yeah, because she doesn't have literally anyone to talk to.
And then she's like freely fucking him that
But
next morning.
The thing is, I mean, yes, you're right. When she does it the next morning, she's not on drugs.
No. She's like all about
but
it.
But I feel like it is like a, like, you know, like people do crazy shit when they're grieving and whatever. And she's just like messed up at this point. And,
That's
you
fair.
know, while she's on the drugs and everything, like, she has a wonderful, like, she feels good.
Oh, yeah.
So she's like, oh, like,
he actually takes the time to please her, which
that
is
was shocking.
Weird.
Like, it's still wrong. Like, it doesn't matter that he, like, does it, because it's, like, still fucking, like, very invasive and just wrong. And
usually, like, if a guy's gonna, like, date rape you, he's not usually gonna try to, like, give you an orgasm and make it good for you.
Has, like, the vibrator and everything.
This is probably the way he justifies it in his head.
100%.
Right?
He's like, no, I made her feel good.
No, it was wonderful for both of us.
Yeah. And then, like, yeah,
but
the next morning,
this is
she's
why...
like, oh, like, I want to feel... She hasn't had an orgasm before. She's never masturbated.
Sure.
So, like, that's the first time.
Yeah.
And she was on drugs, so she's like, all right. And then she starts to have sex with him, but then he literally takes a phone call. This is so insane. He's just so cocky and, like, sure of himself because she's, like, telling him that he's the hero and everything.
Right.
And he takes a phone call and she's like, what? And he's like, she's right here. Like, say something.
Crazy.
She's just like, what are you doing? Finds out that they made a bet.
Yeah.
About, like, him not being able to get her to have sex with her. Bro.
You would think
that's
that
crazy.
The way this would have played out is she would have woken up in the morning and been like, what the fuck happened?
Yes.
Why are my pants off? And then she would have, like, figured out that he raped her.
Yeah.
While drugged.
Yeah.
And she, like, starts to remember it and then pretends to be into it in the morning and then gets revenge for it. But she very much plays into it and she remembers the night and she's fine with it.
Yeah.
So, like, he would not think he did anything wrong. For sure. Now, it's interesting to me that a phone call with his friend and him being like, you know, I made a bet I could get you in bed is the thing that gets his dick cut off, not the fact he drugged and fucked her.
Yeah, but that's is like what we say
thing to
where
punish him for.
She's naive. And also, like, it is rape and everything, but it's like, to her, she's probably like, oh, well, he just gave me that because I was upset. Because he even says it, like, it's because you're upset or whatever.
Well, this is why when I was in my younger years and I was out at the bar scene and all of this type of stuff, I very, very much made it a rule to me that I was not having sex with anyone that was, like, clearly intoxicated. Mm. But it's incredible how, like, just kind of part of our culture it is. And I think that's changing now more, right? Of course, because there's just a lot more focus on these things these days. But, like, in the 90s and the 2000s, like the early 2000s, like, getting a girl drunk at the bar and fucking her was just, like, the way you got laid. That was like how dudes constantly, like, would try to do, like, you watch movies from that era. Yeah. It's always like, let's, you know, get them drunk, and it's always like, as soon as they're drunk, they can get in their pants.
But that's why that's
literally a drug. You're drugging them.
Why we have, like, a rape culture. That's why people, like, talk about it like that, where it's like, because there's been, like, so much of it just being hyper normalized. And that's, you know, it's not wrong for people to have drinks and get drunk and tipsy together and stuff. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it is, like, both people, like, if you're drunk, you're not in your right mind for anything. Like, it's just, that's the facts. Like, does that mean that people are not, like, I'm not stupid. I don't think that there's ever going to be a time when people are not going to get drunk and have sex. And then, like, at some point, like, they'll wake up or whatever and be like, I regret having sex. Like, that's always going to happen. Like, people make stupid decisions when they're drinking.
So, is it your belief that if a girl goes out to the bar, gets drunk, and has sex with someone, she wakes up in the morning, regrets it, that's rape?
I think that if the girl's, like, going out, like, if you were like, I want to go out and drink and then have sex.
Wait, hold on.
Like,
she has to go out with the intention of having sex? She can't just have
guys
the
go
sex?
to bars, like you just told me, like, that's, like, a thing, right?
Okay, but...
So it's probably the same thing for girls.
So it's rape if she didn't go out wanting to have sex?
No, I mean, It's like, I don't know where you draw that line. I think if she, like, was super messed up and didn't know what was happening, then it is.
Well, of course. If the
But,
girl, like,
like,
passes out, or if she's, like,
if she's,
falling
like,
over
really
herself
drunk and then
like,
regrets
she
it,
can't fucking...
you know, there's, like, yeah, she made the decision to get drunk, of course, but then obviously somebody else made the decision to take advantage of her drunk. I think it's, like, the responsibility falls on both people in that case, right? The only time where it's, like, if you're getting fed, like, alcohol against your will, or you're getting fed drugs against your will, or whatever, or you drink too much and then somebody, like...
Sure, but that's the difference, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's responsible for both people.
Right. So, if you're giving someone a drug unbeknownst to them, and then having sex with them when they're in an inebriated or straight up comatose state, that of course is rape.
Yeah.
If you're going out to a bar and you're buying a girl a drink and she's drinking, and she's like, let's go back to my place and fuck, that is not rape.
No, I think that's why I said I think the responsibility falls on both parties that are drinking.
But
you're the one that you're drinking and you're being around other drunk people and you're deciding to have sex. Like, that's a decision you're making while drunk. I think
where it becomes rape for me is when you are purposely feeding a girl more drinks and she's becoming much more intoxicated, like visually, obviously intoxicated, and you're like, let's get another drink in her because my intention is to lower her inhibitions to a level of inebriation that she'll fuck me. That is intent. If you are both just having drinks and you decide to have sex, that's fine.
That's what I said.
But if you're literally sitting there purposely being like... I'm just trying to clarify so we don't get the comments. I want everyone to understand what we're saying. I need to have this very clear. That I don't think that anybody who's had sex while drunk is raping somebody.
That's not what I mean either.
I just personally didn't do it because I never wanted any excuse for a girl to come and be like, you raped.
I think that's smart. And that's, I don't think that anybody who's ever been drunk and had sex with a girl or a guy, like, I don't think that you're a rapist or anything. Because, like I was saying earlier, if you're consenting adults deciding to drink, like... you got to be aware of, like, what can happen when you drink, obviously. I think that more people should be like you, where it's just a safe bet to, like, not have sex with people while you're drunk, or while they're drunk.
Yeah.
Because then that does open a huge can of worms, and it's just better in general, because then it's like, if you actually like that person and want to have sex with them. But, I mean, so many people, that's also why I said earlier, I'm not naive to think that, like, that's... like, a huge reason why people drink is because it lowers their inhibitions and it makes them more flirty and, like, less afraid to, like, go after people or everything. So it's, like, I don't think that's a really hard thing to change, but I do think that more and more people are becoming kind of, like, aware of, like, I think social norms are sort of changing around drinking culture.
Yeah.
Sort of. But I also don't drink, and I don't go out to bars and drink, and I haven't done anything like that in, like, forever, so... yeah. I don't have any real idea of what that is like.
Yeah. So, purposely feeding someone things that will make them want to have sex with you is fucked up. I think that's just clear.
Yeah, this kid rapes her, and then she kills him because he had a bet.
Well, we don't know if he dies.
Oh, yeah, we don't know.
No, he doesn't die.
He calls for his mom.
He does not die.
Oh, you're right, because he's in surgery.
He gets the surgery.
He's in surgery. And they're like assholes. They're like, is it even worth it? Which is really funny.
So yeah, he gets to keep his penis, at least, you know, if the surgery was successful, and he gets to live. Okay. And then I don't know. We should probably wrap this up soon because we've went so off on so many different tangents here. But these are all conversations that the movie elicits. This is just, this movie is about, like, rape. How can you not talk about it? And the whole, like, anyway, I'm not going to get on my little tangent about the fact that people won't use certain words because they're afraid of them, or like
we can't get on that tangent.
Yeah, it just makes zero sense to me. So the fact that the brother's fucking, like, his girlfriend while his mom's laying dead on the ground is crazy.
And then she even says later, like, he said just ignore it because she screams out in pain all the time.
Right.
Which is great. And that's what makes her, like, the sister, that's what makes Dawn or whatever be like, I have to go kill him now. I have to go I gotta go cut his penis off.
Yes, yeah. I mean, once she finds that out, it's like, she's a hitman at that point.
Yeah.
And then I did find it funny when he's hiding in the shower waiting for her. Oh. And he's like gonna jump out. There's kind of a little bit of a foreshadowing to me where she's sitting there and she's brushing her teeth, almost like preparing them, even though it's the ones in her head. But I just thought that was kind of funny that there's like a focus on her teeth in that moment before he jumps out at her. And she gets vengeance on him later with her other teeth. And then, I mean, we get the scene with the son in this, like her brother, her stepbrother or whatever, who's had this thing for her. He's been watching a lot of Pornhub lately. He's got that stepsister. I don't know. That's like the thing these days. I don't want to get into too long of a discussion about these things, but like it's so interesting to me that seems to be the most taboo subject to like jack off to now.
Everyone has broken families.
You think that's what? Yeah, that's a good point.
Everyone has like mixed families now. No, it's like a more acceptable incest because you're not really related.
Yeah,
you're just like pretending to be related.
I found it funny that like it was a couple of years ago. I even posted about it on Facebook that Pornhub for a little while would put these disclaimers before the video. How would I know? How would I know? But they would put disclaimers of like, these people aren't really related.
Oh, for like actual like incest, like.
And I was like,
ones.
Bro, stop killing the fantasy.
That's weird.
I don't need disclaimers.
Maybe they like legally have to because it's
we know
incest is illegal.
Is it?
I think so. I think a certain level of incest
is like for a brother and sister to have sex with each other. That's illegal.
I'm pretty sure it's illegal.
Really interesting. I wonder what that's the law. That's a law.
I think it is, but I don't
know. A father and a daughter makes sense.
Oh, it's messed up.
A mother and a son makes sense.
It's messed up.
And like, for obvious
all
reasons.
You freaks out there with incest kinks.
But if they're both like even
I'm kink shame you.
I'm not saying that this is right. This is not what I'm getting at. But like when it comes down to adults. But then with the parents, I understand because there's obviously a grooming argument, right? Of like the mother or the father groomed the kid into being their sexual partner when they grew up. Ugh. So like I get why that would be illegal. I'd be curious on like why two over the age of 18 brother and sisters. I'm not saying that this is an ideal topic or anything. But I am curious on why that would technically, like, why would that be illegal?
Because it's a sin. Because it's wrong.
It's a sin. Yeah. I don't know. I find it interesting that would be illegal.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think that's illegal. No, I've never looked up incest laws before. I just think it is illegal.
I'm not arguing in favor of it.
Maybe it's only illegal just to like marry them. Maybe I'm like maybe you can do whatever with whoever, but it's
probably right.
Just illegal to do like a marriage. But I don't know. I think that your body, like our bodies, like you're like chemically like not going to be attracted to your sibling more than likely. Like,
but not always.
Not always, I guess.
Because like okay,
but like for the most part, I think most people it's like biological. Like you wouldn't be attracted to like your family because like evolution. Like you'd want to spread your seed and like
But if you weren't going to have children,
I know. Yeah, I mean if you're not going to have
and you guys were like. We're happy together.
I don't care what people do. If they're not going to hurt themselves or anybody and they're not going to have kids.
Yeah, my argument here is that I will say that in the end, I was definitely, even though I hated her, I was very much rooting for Jamie and Cersei to have their day together.
Sure.
Like they genuinely were in love. And that's actually the show that made me question that whole idea of being like they're so in love with each other. Like and the whole like crux of the story of Game of Thrones, of everything that happens from from Ned Stark to getting his head cut off to all the shit that goes down, all kind of starts, like the catalyst for that is Bran finding Jaime and Cersei fucking in the tower.
Yeah,
and then he comes over and he's like, what we do for love, and pushes her, or pushes him.
So messed up.
And this is like cripples him, and then it creates this rift and all this stuff. And it's like, they have to hide their relationship in secret when they just want to be together. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't give a fuck.
I think that
if they want to be together and they're,
I think that
but they do create Joffrey.
Exactly. That's why you
so
can't
that's the problem with
them.
incest.
But no, I think
if
that,
you have a kid, you're going to create Joffrey.
I think that this is like one of those subjects where it's like, we're very...
This is
like,
the craziest fucking video we've ever made.
Just like live and let live kind of people, essentially. Like, again, as long as you're not hurting anybody, and like in this case, like having a child would potentially be hurting that kid because of like the genetic, like, issues and everything.
They're not even related in this.
I know, but what I'm saying is that I think that like the fact people can't even get behind same-sex like couples. Like there's no way like being like able to convince like, oh, it's okay for a brother and a sister to like be together, or whatever. Like that is like such a for most people, because it is, I think also for most people, like, and maybe rightly so, you have like a disgust when you think about it.
Yeah.
Where you're like, ugh, like, no, I would never be with my brother or whatever, even though it's like, okay, well, we're not telling you that you have to be with your fucking sibling.
I never had a sister growing up, so I don't have
I can tell you there's
right. Like I get that.
I have siblings, and it's like that's not a feeling with at all, obviously.
Yeah, but, no, it was a fascinating thing for me when I was older, because when I was a younger kid, but older than a child, when I was like 15 or whatever, and I was in that like full hornball state where I was like, oh my god, I want to fuck everything that moves. And I had a brother. I had a friend who had a sister. They were brother and sister, and she was attractive, and I would like. My friends and I would make jokes about a sister and be like, "Oh man, your sister, whatever." You go, "Oh, my sister," and I would always, it would fascinate me, and I'm like, I know for sure that if she was not your sister, you'd be into her physically, 100%. Like, and I would try to get him to admit that.
No.
And he was like, no. And I'm like, yes. You're telling me if you never met that girl, you would look at her as the attractive person that she is and tell me that she's not attractive? Bullshit.
Yeah, but you see all,
no, he can't disconnect from it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm telling you,
you can't do it.
I'm such a logical person, and I think that's probably my downfall.
You would be an incest person.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I am such a logical person that I cannot take that argument of like, no, I cannot believe that I would be into her. Bullshit. That's not true.
But it
you
is
just
true for
can't
that.
see it because you can't disconnect.
Yeah, but
that's where the logic breakdown happens, where they are incapable of distancing themselves from their own inherent feelings.
You're like asking them to be like, tell me that you think your sister is attractive.
She
objectively.
She is objectively attractive.
I don't want to think about my sister that way because
there's no way that you would ever feel that way. Like, anyway, this conversation's gotten off the rails. I'm just saying that if he was not her brother and he met her, because they were almost the same age, they were only like a year apart. If he went to high school with her, he would be into her 100%. 100% without question. It was totally his type of chick, too. Which says something about him.
What is it? You're like trying to force people into incest.
What?
You're an incest forcer.
No! I'm just saying, moving on. I don't give a fuck. I don't have a sibling to have incest with.
I'll be your sibling.
Okay, now we've really turned everybody there's no one watching anymore. And if they are, it's only because they're typing. That is the only reason they're still here.
It is illegal. And also, the word you were thinking about earlier, that's the opposite of phallic.
No, are you kidding me? They're coming at us for being sickos. Or coming at me, for sure. We're done. We're done. The dog eats his dick. She goes after the old man. If he can get it up, he's done for. That's it. Don't fuck your sister.
No, don't
don't rape people. No, none of these conversations. I am just somebody who likes to have open conversations. I think everybody's way too closed-minded, and they try so hard to like live in this world that's like pampered and sugar-coated and like, I don't know. We all have crazy thoughts. If you're ever honest with things, we'd all be much freakier and crazier out loud. But everyone wants to repress even their own vocabulary and their own thoughts. And I'm just not that person. I don't really care how it makes me look. I'm a logical person who likes to have conversations out in the open that make sense. And I feel like everyone is a coward. They don't want to have actual conversations. I've struggled with this my whole life. As being a hairdresser and talking to people for years, I had to really dial down the conversations because I would start to talk to people about real things and they would get so uncomfortable and I'd be
and then you're like,
I know that you think this.
You're like,
I
holding
know
the
people
shears
think
right
these things
near their eyeball and you're like, tell me the fucking truth. Don't be a coward. Fuck your sister.
That's right. That's right. Or at least watch the porn on Pornhub and live through it vicariously. All right. That's it. This is the craziest fucking... I don't even know if we're uploading this. This is crazy. Just kidding.
Members only.
You're watching this, so you know we did. Members only. I'm sickos. Members only might be the only way to go with this one, because anyone who's subscribed to this channel and paid for a membership is fucked in the head.
Sorry, guys.
For sure. There's no doubt about it. We wouldn't appeal to anyone in that way, like in a financial way, where they're like, well, I want to give these guys money. With all the shit we've said over the years.
Yeah, I don't even want to know.
All bought in.
I don't even want to have like a...
This is the craziest conversation we've ever had on the channel. And I figured that from this movie. I mean, this is what kind of like comes out of a conversation about these things. How do you talk about this shit without it getting crazy?
I think you can talk about this movie probably, and I'm sure people have, in a much more intellectual way than what we did.
This is intellectual. Yes, it is.
Is it though?
Yes.
This is like
pseudo-intellectual?
Yeah.
What the fuck ever. Why? Because we're not using like fucking big words.
The opposite of phallic. The real word for...
Fuck off. Okay, we're dumb. So what? That's why I fucked my sister. Because I'm an inbred moron.
Wow.
Alright, I'm done. Anything more? Anything more to get us canceled off the planet?
No. Bye.